Hey, how's it going? This is Miklo, and today we're going to be talking about PCV and EGR systems. All right, so the first car we're going to be taking a look at is the 2011 Buick Lucerne 3.9 liter, and we're going to be looking at the PCV system on this vehicle. All right, so as far as the description of operation of the PCV system on this Buick, so basically it uses a ventilation valve, and that meters the flow um, depending on the manifold absolute pressure um, sensor, and then it uses vacuum to regulate how the flow is, and then this maintains idle quality, and it also restricts the flow when the manifold pressure is too high, as like a safety measure. And you know if abnormal conditions do arise, then it just allows an abundance of blow-by gases to backflow into the crankcase vent tube, and it reroutes filtered fresh air through the upstream with the throttle plate, which is on the throttle position, is controlled by the throttle position sensor, and it basically, like any other PCV system, it prevents any contamination in the oil, and overall better uh, running engine. Okay, so here's the 2011 Buick Lucerne, 3.9 liter. Here is the PCV system itself. Uh, Looks like the clip is missing on top of the actual vent tube. But here's the PCV, and it is not testable. It is part of the cover, valve cover. All right, so it looks like there's no oil leaks currently. And I'm going to start up the vehicle, see if the idle is regular. Okay, so I've got it running. Sounds like it's idling pretty normal. Let it run for a while here. Okay, at idle. All right, so we're gonna check for the vacuum flow through the valve here. See how that goes. So we have vacuum. You feel it. There's a slight decrease in performance and a rough idle, so put that back. It's more the steady idle. But as you can see, as we remove that vacuum line, there's an automatic response from the engine. It's running more smoothly, but it does indeed have vacuum. Alright, so from outside of the vehicle, here's where we have the PCV. It's non-removable, it's non-serviceable. It's part of the actual cover, valve cover. And then it basically goes from the valve cover to the manifold. So it circulates this way, down to the crank and back up. So we're gonna remove this, and then our reading should change a bit. Here we have the readings. And see increase in manifold pressure and barometric pressure as well. Sorry, it decreased in pressure, that is, because it's not getting a full seal, so it's not going to build up that pressure as much. So I'm going to remove it again. It's going to run rough. It's going to have that manifold for that crankcase pressure. plug it back in, goes back to normal. Alright, so in order to test the PCV system, one of the tests that we can do is a index, or the flash card, index card, or the piece of paper on top of the oil fill tube. So place this piece of paper on top here. See, it's not moving, it's not budging or anything like that. So there's no blow by. Typically in the blow by, if it had blow by, there'd be no vacuum. See, it's even holding the piece of paper down. If it had any blow by, it'd be, instead of vacuum, you know, going in, it'd be, you know, pushing stuff out. So, and even as we remove the piece of paper, you can hear engine performance is a little bit different. But when we have it held down, it keeps that steady vacuum. So if this oil cap was missing, it would affect engine performance. Okay, so the next vehicle we're going to be taking a look at is a 2007 Buick Lucerne, 3.8 liter. And this one we're going to be taking a look at the EGR system. Alright, so in order to test if our EGR is functioning properly, or to actually even, you know, observe on how it works and functions, we're going to be tapping into the EGR valves position sensor, and we're going to be testing for voltage there, and it'll tell us how open, or at what voltage it is at, and therefore it'll tell us how open the EGR valve is. The higher voltage it gets, the more open the valve is. Alright, so we've got the EGR hooked up on this 2007 Buick Lucerne 3.8, and we got the signal wire hooked up, or the input wire. It's currently at 0.8 volts for regular voltage. Let you know, EGR actuation. When we go under EGR on the top down, we're going to activate more. So under 10%, you hear the idle's a little bit more rough because that EGR is opening up right now. At 10%, we have 1.2 volts. We're going to go up to 20% here. It's running even more rough. We got 1.6, 1.5 volts at 20%. And at 30, we got even higher idle, rough idle. We're down to 0.9. Alright, and it's not going to let us do anything any further, just to not damage the motor, because it's increased amount of NOx. Okay, so here I have the 2011 Buick. Currently it's at idle. I have the map manifold absolute pressure popped up on the scan tool here on the snap-on. I have, looks like, intermittent manifold pressure, and then I have barometric pressure, all of which faulty PCV might affect, which we will simulate with unplugging the PCV. So we got 9.4, 20.3, and 29.8 for all those, for all that data. So now we're gonna create a kind of a or replicate like a faulty PCV system. If it were to open or something, if there was a tear in one of the vacuum lines, and we're gonna see how it affects these readings here.